All right. Hello and welcome again to another Move with a Doc. I'm Dr. Roopa Shah. I'm a board certified family physician, a health and wellness coach, and also a board certified obesity medicine expert or bariatrician. So today is one of my favorite topics, which is talking about weight loss and weight maintenance as it applies to intermittent fasting. So as always, feel free to stretch, to move, take a nice walk as we discuss intermittent fasting. So, we're going to talk a little bit about what intermittent fasting is, how it sort of works, but mostly what the benefits are for you, and then if it's right for you. Okay. Now, full disclaimer, this is something I do follow. So, of course, I really like it and I think it benefits me. I've done it for years, but fell upon it really before it was a real trend. I did it out of necessity, right? Busy clinician, don't always have time to eat breakfast in the morning, don't really like breakfast, get really hungry during the day, and then just like to do a nice, dinner. So one of the types of intermittent fasting we'll discuss today is the one that I do, which is the 16-8. But again, I did it because it worked into my lifestyle and it made me feel better. So again, as we're talking about this is not something everyone has to do, or you have to feel like, this is the only way. This is not the only way, especially as we're looking at it in terms of weight loss. Okay. So, what is intermittent fasting? Just to kind of define it, it is an eating pattern, right? It's eating pattern that cycles between periods of fasting, which means that you are not eating. You can drink water, but you're not eating. And then you alternate with eating, right? So it's not specifying what types of foods. There's lots of diets out there, right, that specify what type of food you should eat. This is more kind of dictating when you should eat. So it's like a different approach, okay? So it's when you should eat food. Now, there's a few common methods for intermittent fasting that we're going to discuss in a minute here. But the most popular one, and I already mentioned it, it's called the 16-8. So 16/8 is kind of what we call it. So it refers to fasting for 16 hours and then having an 8-hour eating window. Really popular because a lot of people can do it and it's a little bit easier for folks to follow. So the thought, when all the diet gurus jumped onto intermittent fasting and, where did it evolve from? And really the thought was that it's sort of a practice that evolved through human evolution, really. If you think about our early hunter-gatherer folks, they sometimes had to go days without food, right? If they would make a kill, they could eat for a few days, and then what? Then they would have to fast, right? And so really the thought is that we as humans may have evolved to go without food for days at a time. And so this could be an adaptive mechanism, and one that has evolved over, millions of years. So in fact, fasting may be even more natural, some people think, than this common, thought that we have is that we should eat 4 to 5 times a day with little snacks. And that may not actually be how humans are best able to survive. And really fasting may be the more quote unquote natural. Okay. So I'll leave that for you to decide, but it's an interesting concept. And if you think about it in terms of human evolution, it could bear some weight. So what are the different methods? You've probably heard of some of these, right? The first one, 16-8. It's the easiest. You fast for 16 hours and you eat for 8. Now, remember, you're sleeping for a good portion of that fast, so it's not as terrible as it sounds, okay? Then there's a 12-hour method. Some people like this. You fast for just simple. You just fast for 12 hours a day, and then you have a 12-hour eating window. Really simple as well. Another method is the 5-5-2 method. So 5:2. Fast for 2 days out of the week. So you would eat normally 5 days per week, and you will reduce your calories like quite moderate to severely for 2 days. And those 2 days you would be eating roughly 500 to 600 calories. Okay. So again, the 5-2 is you quote unquote fast, where you're just basically really restricting your calories for 2 days out of the week, but the other 5 days you're eating sort of normally. Slightly less popular, but people do this one. The next one, the fourth one, is called, you might have heard of it, Eat, Stop, Eat. It's a little simplistic, but this basically involves a 24-hour fast once or twice a week. Okay. A little tougher to do because, going a whole 24 hours without food can really be a stress on the body. Okay. But there are people that do this as well. And then the other one is the last one I'll mention is the alternate day fasting. Basically, you're just fasting every other day. One day you're fasting, one day you're eating, one day you're fasting, one day you're eating, and you just kind of alternate. So again, which of these do you feel best on? Which of these works with your lifestyle? That's what you kind of have to decide. And that is why the 16-8 tends to be the most popular because it's what works for most people. I just wanted to quickly mention, because it's just kind of interesting to me that worldwide, right, there are lots of different cultures, in Islam, in Hinduism, where fasting is a part of the culture. In fact, I think Ramadan is currently going on, where there is this built-in fasting. So a lot of cultures do this, and you have to think, did this evolve from some of their knowledge that they had, of kind of how humans do best in evolution and things that we talked about. So it is interesting that it's built into certain cultures where people will fast for prolonged periods of time and don't seem to have a lot of, poor health outcomes from it. In fact, again, as we're now seeing, could have some real health benefits to fasting. So, okay. Now let's get into what I think you're all waiting for is what are the benefits of intermittent fasting and should you even do it? Okay. To me, this is the most fascinating part of some of the stuff that I have read. Now, the first thing that's going to come to your mind is it's for weight loss. It's the magic pill. I'm going to lose weight on it. And most people think that this is the number one reason you should intermittent fast. Okay. But I'm here to tell you that is probably not true. And there's conflicting data and conflicting research on this. But so the one thing is that studies have really shown that there is nothing inherently notable for an intermittent fasting that causes the weight loss. Okay. Because intermittent fasting basically restricts the time that you're eating. What you are doing, of course, is you're essentially reducing your caloric intake and therefore losing weight. So that's some of the research that's been done in the bariatric world. They've done some head-to-head studies where they've fed people the exact same number of calories, whether they intermittent fast or they're not intermittent fasting. And those folks really didn't show a substantial weight loss. Okay. So if people are telling you should intermittent fast to lose weight, maybe. Okay. When you begin to intermittent fast, you will probably, more than likely, you're going to cut your caloric intake. So you are going to lose weight. Okay. And it has been shown in certain studies to maybe cause a 3 to about 7% weight loss over, I think, 3 to 24 weeks is what they've looked at with some of these methods. So let's think about this practically. When let's say you fast from 7, you start at 11 in the morning and you don't eat anything after 7 p.m. like dinner. Okay. What if you weren't intermittent fasting? What are the things that people tend towards in the evening? For me, last night, I did not intermittent fast. I had a huge bowl of ice cream, high fat, high sugar, and I put sprinkles on top because it's better that way. And it was vanilla ice cream. I probably just ingested a couple hundred calories super quickly. So my point being, in the evenings, the thought is your 8-hour window ends and you're not supposed to eat. When we eat in the evenings, what are we tending towards? The studies have found most people tend towards high fat, high sugar foods, and high salt. Ice cream, cookies, cake, chips. We're not generally reaching for celery and carrots. Okay, so think about how those extra calories, right? So now you can conceptualize, if I intermittent fast, basically I'm putting guardrails on the types of calories I'm ingesting. I'm more doing more intuitive eating, and I'm just limiting some of those excess calories on the outside, typically in the evenings after a long day of work. Few glasses of wine, all those extra calories that can really add up. And therefore, intermittent fasting is thought, just by virtue of that kind of calorie restriction, to reduce weight. Okay. Again, this way of eating may also reduce our waist circumference, which we know is a marker for harmful belly fat, that abdominal fat that layers around our liver, our pancreas, and again, is linked to heart disease. Okay, so some studies did show that intermittent fasting could increase your metabolic rate by about 3 to maybe 14% in certain studies. So, but there's a lot of conflict on that. Okay. I don't know if I'm getting some feedback on my computer. Now, I want to get into the crux of it. So, okay, I hope everyone can still hear me. Sorry about that. Here's where I think intermittent fasting really does shine. And there's three main areas. Now, this is what I want you to focus on. So I want you to keep in the back of your mind, yeah, I could lose weight on it. But here's what I really want you to focus on, because this is where I think it's really good for your health. And this is the metabolic benefits. Okay. And this is what I focus on with my patients as well. The metabolic benefits of intermittent fasting. Number one, when you fast, there are several fascinating changes that occur at both the cellular and molecular level. The first one, and I know you might be tired of hearing it, but is you increase your insulin sensitivity. This is key. This is what we want. We're all trying to avoid developing insulin resistance. Okay, when our insulin, when we have more insulin sensitivity in our body, our insulin levels can drop, and now we can access our stored body fat for burning as fuel, which before we may not be able to. And we all want to burn fat, right? Because that's what we're trying to get rid of if we're trying to lose weight. Okay, so this is really a critical piece of it. Now, remember, when we're talking about insulin resistance, that's always a buzzword, and people kind of like have heard it, but they don't understand it. But insulin resistance is what develops as you gain more and more weight, more and more adipose fat. Your body requires more insulin. This is the pathway to type 2 diabetes, which we know has a whole host of poor health outcomes, heart disease, increased risk of heart attacks, strokes, kidney problems, et cetera, et cetera. So we want to develop, we want to keep basically how much insulin we have and make it work well and efficiently and sensitive. And intermittent fasting can be a tool for this, okay? Some of the studies I looked at with intermittent fasting, it lowered blood sugar by 3 to 6%, and they reduced fasting insulin levels by 20 to 30% in some studies, which again, should protect us against type 2 diabetes. So that is fascinating, and that is what we're all going for, okay? So we talked about you can access your fat. So what does this mean? You're switching over to using fat for fuel rather than just carbs. If you're eating all the time and you have sugar on board, your body is going to pull from that. It's not going to pull from your fat stores. So what we'll refer to this as basically is called metabolic switching. Okay. And that is key. So we want to be metabolically flexible. Okay, so you'll hear this a lot in the literature, and it's called metabolic switching. And that is one of the really important things for intermittent fasting. Okay, and some thought is, again, as it improves your metabolism and then you can access the stored fat, you could lose weight. Okay, but developing and keeping your insulin sensitive is one of the key parts of intermittent fasting. So focus on that. So that's number one. Number two, studies have looked at cellular repair. Now, this is really interesting to me from kind of as I always look into how can we live a longer, healthier life, longevity studies. You know, everyone wants to live a bit longer, but we want to live healthier. So a lot of studies have now looked also at cellular repair. When you're in a fasted state, so when you haven't eaten, your body now begins the process of cellular repair, okay? So this can happen overnight, let's say, and this includes what we call autophagy. Your body and your other cells basically digest and remove old and dysfunctional proteins that build up in cells. Okay, so that's really interesting. It's like this housekeeping process that happens, okay? So it also, okay, can spark, they've looked at this, and as I was researching this more, this was really fascinating too, that it sparks mitochondrial growth. Mitochondria are our little energy powerhouses in our body. So you get mitochondrial growth and biogenesis. And because our mitochondria are our metabolic powerhouses, can help boost our metabolism in theory. Okay. So again, this may be some of the research of why people are extrapolating and saying, oh, you'll lose weight if you intermittent fast. Maybe, but you can see that at a cellular level, these changes are occurring and they are important and they do matter. So basically, the thought is with intermittent fasting, you are maintaining and repairing your system, which basically improves what we call cellular resistance. Okay. And when we have more cellular resistance, this can enhance cell survival. And in theory, right, this could lead to some longevity and keep you, hate to use the word younger, but maybe not aging at an accelerated rate. So there's lots of folks looking at intermittent fasting and how this could translate over to improving longevity and such, okay? So cellular repair and autophagy, where your own body can eat up and clear out these dysfunctional proteins, really key for healthy aging, okay, is the thought. So I find that interesting. Third, and kind of piggybacking on what we just talked about with cellular repair, is that there's really a lot of positive changes in gene expression that seem to occur. Okay, now this is a little technical, so I'm not going to get too much into this. But most fascinating, again, is that there's changes in the function of our genes that are related to longevity. Okay, and protection against disease. So I just alluded to this, but this is one of the reasons some folks are very much interested in intermittent fasting. They have shown that fasting can help regulate inflammation. Okay, and in several other talks, we've talked about how inflammation really is one of the worst things for our body, right? Because it can accelerate all disease processes. So fasting can help reduce inflammation in our body. How? By reducing levels of different age-associated inflammatory markers, okay? Interleukin-1, interleukin-6, tumor necrosis factor alpha. There's a lot of them. I mean, some of them I don't understand, to be honest, but the thought is there's many of these, and if we can down-regulate inflammation in our body via these inflammatory markers, that obviously benefits us as we're trying to live a longer, healthier life, okay? Some of the other markers that are involved, if you ever wanted to Google, mTOR is a really popular one. In some of the lay press you'll hear about. Dr. Attia is also speaking about this in his new book. AMP, NAD, these are all kind of thrown around. And it's because they're important and they're being studied right now. And intermittent fasting has been shown to have some positive effects on these. Those proteins have some downstream effects on other proteins that regulate cellular function. So again, lots of interest in intermittent fasting and how it affects longevity. Now, they have looked at this in rats, as you would imagine, right? Rats, and they did find, we are not rats, but they found in rats that they did extend the lifespan of rats. They show that fasted rats lived 36 to 83% longer. So again, remember, we are not that similar genetically to rats, so it's unclear how this relates to humans, but there is potential that this could help us as well. Lastly, intermittent fasting also seems to affect human growth factor, and levels of human growth factor increase by nearly 5-fold. And this hormone, growth factor hormone, has really big benefits for fat loss and muscle gain. So could be another potential benefit of intermittent fasting. Okay, so intermittent fasting, some additional benefits that I just want to mention, again, could help reduce your body mass index and improve what we call our fat to lean ratio, how much fat we have versus how much lean muscle mass or lean protein that we have. So we want less adipose and we want more lean muscle mass. Other studies looked at that improved blood pressure in some of the subject studies. Again, this could be from the weight loss itself. It also improved, and this is another thing I should mention that is actually a really good benefit because, again, My whole focus for intermittent fasting is the metabolic benefits of it. So some of the studies that looked at the improved cardiometabolic markers. What does this mean for you? This means your fasting glucose could improve, your fasting insulin can improve, your hemoglobin A1C can go down, your liver enzymes, if they're elevated due to fatty liver, those could improve. Your triglycerides could be lower, and you could lower your inflammatory markers, okay? So lots of cardiometabolic improvement has been shown from intermittent fasting, okay? So switching gears a little bit, what are some of the downsides? Well, as you would imagine, hunger could be the main side effect of intermittent fasting. You're going to feel hungry as you are maybe adapting. So do you want to jump into this and say, hey, tomorrow I'm going to start a 16-8 fast? No, you want to ease your body into it. You want to take your time, and then slowly keep extending that eating window. Anything that we do drastically, we don't know how it's going to make us feel. And some people have reported that when they first start intermittent fasting, they might feel kind of weak, or they may feel a little cloudy as they're sort of adjusting to this new pattern of eating. So go slow, be gentle, and don't do anything drastic, okay? And again, some of these initial side effects tend to be temporary, and your body should adapt to this new meal schedule that you're wanting to adapt. If you have any medical conditions, of course, speak to your physician before trying this. If you have diabetes, if you take insulin or other diabetic medications, you must speak to your physician. If you have problems with blood sugar regulation, if you have too low a blood pressure, if you are underweight or you have a history of an eating disorder, please speak to your physician. And of course, if you're trying to conceive, if you're pregnant, nursing, speak to your physician before trying this. It's not for everybody, and we want to do it in a manner that's safe, okay? So just some quick final thoughts. I'm, again, a big proponent of intermittent fasting, but again, for the metabolic benefits, not just for the purely weight loss benefits. But I think it gives your body a break from the constant work of digestion. And again, because it improves insulin sensitivity. Again, what I like about the 16-8 is that you can pick to do this just even a few days per week. You don't have to do it every day. And in fact, I only do it about 6 days a week because I like to enjoy myself on the weekends. So most of us kind of fall into this habit of eating dinner, and then again, we snack late at night. So if this is your issue, I really think intermittent fasting could be a good option, because it kind of just tells your brain, like, I'm going to eat a nice healthy dinner, but then I'm not going to reach for that bowl of ice cream or that extra glass of wine or what have you, with those extra calories in the evening. So the thing to try could be, I think the 16-8 is a nice method for most people. Eat a healthy dinner. You can have, what a lot of folks will say is, you can have your coffee or tea in the morning. So it's not like you can have nothing in the morning. But you would break your fast then the next morning, maybe around 11, and then your 8-hour window would start there. There's some reports that if you can get a fasted workout in the morning, so before you break your fast at 11, if you were in the gym and you got a fasted workout in, you're even boosting your metabolism a little bit more, and you're getting a little bit extra out of that fast, and you're pulling more from your fat stores that way too. That's something I really like to do, but I never have always felt the need to have breakfast before I eat. In fact, I exercise better on an empty stomach. Now, there are some folks where they feel like they have to eat before workout. That's fine. Just giving you something extra to kind of think about. So I guess it went a bit longer than I thought, but thank you again for joining in today. If you have any questions, feel free to send them my way. But again, let's focus on the metabolic benefits of intermittent fasting. Have a great day.